Good day, everybody. Hope you all are having a fantastic weekend. For those that don't know who I am, my name is James Weeks. I am the author of the book Meditations Across the King's River, African Inspired Wisdom for Life's Journey. And I help people with strategies for emotional, spiritual, and financial wellness. To learn more about me and my book, visit acrossthekingsriver.com. Today, I have a very special guest with us, one of my Caribbean sisters, Simone Arthur, who is a spiritual medium, life coach, herbalist, amazing businesswoman. And she's here to share some of her wisdom and insights with us to help empower you, to help empower others. So, Simone, thank you so much for coming and being a part of this experience with us.
Oh, thank you, Barbara Weeks, for having me. That's
Yeah,
an amazing introduction. I'm always so touched by when I'm doing these interviews and people introduce me with these titles, and I'm like, that is me. That is actually me. So I am grateful and thank you for the invitation. I've been keeping track of you for a while, thanks to EIFA Michelle. She introduced me to you digitally. So I've been following your work, and I want to also thank you for being committed to all this spiritual work that we're here to do. We've been ordained to do, and I want to thank you for that. And thank you for having me on here.
sure. You're quite welcome. Sure, you're quite welcome. One of the things that fascinates me about your journey in particular is I was looking at your website, and her website is readingsbysimone.com. So I was looking at reading your website, and one of the things that I find fascinating, your website says that maybe about 15 years ago or so, you were actually in another profession. You were doing event planning and marketing. But what fascinates me about that is that your website says that you actually loved it, but you
Yeah.
felt that your spirit was calling you in another direction. And so the reason why that fascinates me is because for most people, it's the opposite. They're doing something that they hate, right? And then maybe they're trying to see, like, well, what could they do something that they love? In your case, you're doing something that you love, and then it's about how do you transition into something that you feel called to do. So could you talk to us about that and tell us about that journey, that
Oh, that
transition?
was a rough journey. That was rough. And spirit, the ancestors, God, universe, literally had to put me at rock bottom for me to really focus on my spiritual gifts. At the time I was working in travel and leisure and tourism, and planning events at fabulous venues in New York and across different cities in the US, and I was happy doing it. And anything, I love to dress up and plan an event and have people happy, and at the time selling Barbados, because that's what I was doing. That was the mandate I was put to do. And so I felt the shift coming on for me to do something else. But my thought process was the shift was regarding my career, and instead of working for someone in this space, do my own projects. And so I embarked on this journey of uh, planning my own projects, and two big projects actually, and they failed. They failed and put me in a lot of debt too, which I'm currently still paying off. And it was just down a rabbit hole from them, just spiraling down. And, a friend of mine, he looked at me, he said, well, I think you're now at the point whereas you have to focus on your spiritual work and you have to do readings. And I was scared, fear took over. Like, I can't do this. Suppose I tell the person something wrong. Well, he said, well, you've been reading me for X amount of years and you have not been wrong once. This is what you need to do. And so September 2019, Readings by Simone was born. That's how young this thing is. Even with all the work you're seeing me doing, it just, like, I came out of the closet in late fall 2019 in New York. and readings by Simone was built. Spirit sent me to read this one person. We were just friends, like in a matter of months, and she didn't know about my gift. And I read her, and when I was done, she just started bawling, crying. And then after that, she called all her friends and told her friends, "You have to book Simone. You have to book Simone." And it started from there. And one of the key things, and I've been saying this mantra for the whole week, and it's resonating now with me: trust and obey. And Spirit told me, you will not have to borrow again to pay back this debt. Readings by Simone is going to help you to pay back every single person you owe. And Baba, so said, so done. So said, so done. I still have some others that are in the pen waiting, but every person that I owe, I have paid off. I have paid them through my readings. And, this is where trusting Spirit is important. And I'll end there before I go on and on.
Well, this
So
is
that's my
powerful.
little story.
Just this week, I was talking to a friend of mine. She's actually from Haiti, and she asked me this question. She asked me, "Well, why is it that we have to hit rock bottom?" That's what she asked me before, like, this spiritual world opens up for us. And I'd like to get your point of view on this. So what I mentioned to her is, what I said was, I don't feel like all the time that we have to hit like a rock bottom, but I said that as we go through life, we could even be like doing well, but something will happen, something will happen that will knock us down or whatever, right? And send us
Yeah.
on a direction where we have to develop more of a spiritual base. So someone could not necessarily be at the rock bottom phase, but something happens that's beyond their control, and it forces them to grow maybe in a different way. What are your thoughts on this?
Of course. Of
Hmm.
course. And sometimes in the valley is where we learn our most valuable lessons.
Hmm.
When our faith is down in the dirt, we're bawling, crying, we're naked, we have no one. Because at that time, all my friends had left. I had borrowed this money from them for 2 projects. None of them came off. Everybody was blowing up my phone and calling me and threatening me. They're calling police. They're going to put me in court, all this kind of madness. And Spirit was like, just dismiss them. Just dismiss them. Just dismiss them. And I'm like, are you kidding me? This person's getting ready to blast me on Facebook. They're like, focus on us. I mean, literally, this is my conversation with my ancestors. I remember Madrina telling me, well, you talk to them like you talk to me. And I said, well, yeah, that's how we communicate, right?
Hmm.
And so from me, my experience, I had to get there because I was focused on the wrong things. And this may be the case for others who have to hit rock bottom to get it. I was focused on what other people would think of me. Because in the Caribbean, especially the English speaking Caribbean, anything having to do with spirituality and mediums and spiritualists and reading, you're all be a woman. And that is not said in the nicest of contexts, right? You're working with the devil, you're demonic. I'm now going through some stuff where I'm being targeted on island for this, but that's going to be fixed. But I was afraid of that. And then coming from a middle class family, I was raised Anglican. I was the first person in my church, Christ the King, who was baptized, confirmed, in the church. My grandmother, she was head of the Mothers Union. And so, like, I was like, my family's going to disown me. My friends are going to want to speak to me again. But when you are standing in your truth, none of that matters. And who will be for you will be there when you make that shift, when you make that transition. And that's when you know who's standing in your corner. And the funny thing is, some of these same folks who I owe this money to and they were banging down my door and carrying on, 2020 hit. We had this pandemic. Everybody's like, well, Simone, take your time. It's like a self-reflection with everybody. Like, is this Armageddon now? Are we really gonna, like, it's the end of the world? So everybody had a come to Jesus moment. And they weren't so hard on me anymore, but that speaks to integrity too, because if Spirit says this is how this is going to unfold, and this is how you're going to conduct yourself, you have to act accordingly. So sometimes for us, hard-headed, stubborn, me, Simone, speaking here, you need to, get them licks before you get it. But trust and believe, I've had enough licks. I'm good now.
We're good to
So
go.
sometimes it's that stubbornness that forces those licks to happen. Because if I was listening nearly 20 years ago when this gift first came around, I wouldn't have been in that position for sure. But you live and you learn.
We live and we learn. So somebody asked this question, so I'd like to hear your take on it, and then I will give my take on it. Well, maybe I'll just give my take first. So he says, this person is asking, well, how did letting go of your ego impact your journey? I'll just say briefly a perspective, and then I'll let you hear what you have to say. One of the things that I've learned on this journey is that this journey is bigger than us and is bigger than what we might think our destiny is or might be, because I would have never thought for a million years that I would be doing the work that I do. And honestly, there are days when I ask myself, I don't even know how this is possible that here I am doing this work. Why is this? But the answer is that I know there's a plan for all of us, every one of us. And for us, for that plan to be revealed, sometimes things can't go as we want them to go. But
Correct.
I mean, it just can't. If that happens, then we won't get to our destination, which is our souls would not get the chance to evolve if things go the way we think they should go. What are your thoughts on this question? How did letting go of your ego impact your journey?
It felt as if I lost weight. The weight, my body, and the movement of what I was doing, it felt freer. I didn't feel bogged down and impacted by fear and by judgment of others. I felt free. And with that freeness, allowed my third eye to even open up more, allow me to see more of being able to, when I'm reading, and also see for Simone, like we can't be in these spaces helping everybody. We can't help ourselves, right?
Hmm.
And allow me to hear clear what the ancestors were telling me. Allow me to feel them better, right? To smell them, to taste them. How am I? Because in all these ways in which I communicate with the other side, right? So it felt like if all those blockages, we talk about chakras and these chakras being blocked, it felt like a floodgate opened up and allowed me to be free and to be able to communicate better with the other side, but also to be able to discern the information that I was getting and to understand it better and to be able to interpret it better. So yeah, that's what it was.
Beautiful. So let's talk about the other side for a minute. So, um, at what point did you always know, like growing up, or that you were talking to spirit, or that spirit was impacting you, and at what point did it become stronger for you?
Well, in hindsight, growing up in Barbados, then moving to New York when I was 18, there was nothing. There was nothing. There was only, no, let me be honest. It was this one time I was dating this guy and he was dropping me home. This was in New York. He was dropping me home. And I said to him, oh, shoot, I dreamt last night that you were married. And the guy was actually married.
Mm.
So that was the only time that I can remember. And that's so scandalous. But anyhow, and that was the only time I could remember me having that experience. Right. I if there was something else, I cannot, and I usually sit down and have this thought process with myself. I can't remember it. And when I was, living in New York, 18, 19, 20, 21, I was living alone. My parents were in Barbados. My immediate family, I had aunts and cousins in New York, but I wasn't close with them. So I was basically on my own. And then I met up this Trinidadian woman. Her name was Karen Williams. You know how these soca parties are in New York. I was in and out of them nearly every night. And I linked up with her, and she was Shango Baptist. And then one day she told me, Simone, put on a skirt, tie up your head. We going down the road. I'm like, what fat I going in that I gotta wear a skirt and tie my head? You know? So anyway, we went to this church on Nostrand Avenue, and I think it's Sterling Place. And a regular church at the top. So I'm like, but the church is closed. aha, the basement is open. So we went down in the basement, and it was this. Only way I can describe it to you, like how I would back then, it was just pure bacchanal.
Hmm.
Drummers, these women in these frocks with these big hips swaying left and right, head tie up. I said, "What is this?" And even going to these ceremonies, I still felt nothing. And these people are manifesting the different deities, they're manifesting Egun, whatever. And I'm sitting there like, wow, this is fascinating. And nothing happened to me. And then, okay, we passed that. And I won't go into that how I met her, but then I met my spiritual mother via a reading, went for a reading with her. And she's spiritual Baptist Dr. Bonnie Jean of Isaiah's Temple of Mount Hope in East New York. And I was having a very rough time in my life. And she told me, Simone, come and visit my church. So I went. And again, nothing happened. And I said to her, I think I want to baptize because my life isn't getting any better. And I think if I, make this connection with God, it would improve. And she said, okay. So I thought with them, you're going to dip yourself in and out of the water, you come out and you're good. But there is this ritual or ceremony for many Sundays leading up to your baptism called when you sit on the mercy seat. And basically you're sitting in front of the altar and you're going through this meditation, to put it in layman terms, on, if this is something you really want to do. And while going through that is when all I could describe it, Baba, is this, and this may sound so Hollywood, but like this bright light. And the first face I saw was my maternal grandmother, who was like my next heartbeat. And she said to me, I would never forget this. This was back in 2000 and something. And she's 4 or 5, somewhere around there. And she said to me, her hands in her waist, these West Indian older women stand up. She said to me, it's about time. It's about time. And I could not believe I was seeing her and I was hearing her. Well, the floodgates opened and I was bawling down the church. And then that's how my gift manifested. The whole Sunday, I was reading the entire church. I read my spiritual mother. I was reading everybody. I was just talking. And from then until now, that's it.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
that's it.
yeah, beautiful. Now I want to ask you this question because as I work with people, often one of the comments I often hear is they don't feel like connected to their ancestors, or they don't feel like they're getting messages. As I talk to them, in their own day-to-day life, they don't feel like, okay, they're not getting messages. And my position to them is, well, we're always connected. You have to find out like how you are receiving your messages. What would be your advice to people who feel they're not, able to connect to spirit on their own? Like, what tips and suggestions could you give to help deepen that? And I know one of them would be trust what you are receiving. Could you share your thoughts on this?
Well, first of all, I want to discuss with them the different ways in which that connection may happen. Because
Mhm.
I find even with my work, everybody come to me, oh, I can't connect, I can't connect, I can't connect. And everybody either wants to see or hear, right? Meanwhile, the connection could be feeling. Meanwhile, the connection could be smell or taste. So your connection may not be the first thing that everybody wants to do, because everybody want to be able to see and read and hear and that whatever, right? Like, come on. This time your ancestors is in your intuition, in your gut, in your chest, trying to communicate with you that way. So the first thing I say with them is try to figure out your love language with the other side and what that looks like, or what that feels like, or what that may sound like, right? And just be mindful of your environment. Yes, you have to trust it. Yes, you have to believe in what you may be feeling, hearing, seeing, or tasting, or smell it, right? But you have to first understand what that love language is. And when you're able to identify that, then you go into trusting what you get from it, right? So stop and encourage folks in a nice, gentle way. Stop just focusing on wanting to see spirit or wanting to hear spirit, right? Because when I'm reading, as you may know, Baba, I have to utilize all of them. And now every reading, your ancestor is going to show up for me to see or for me to hear. I've done readings where the ancestors show up where they through taste. And I'm tasting this thing like, this stuff is awful. What it is that your grandmother used to give you for colds. And the person on the other, like, oh my God, that thing is disgusting. But it worked. I'm like, yeah, I can taste it. I want it. And I literally have to get up from the reading and go and drink some water or something to just get that energy away from me. Right? But you have to understand first what that love language is. And you have to spend time by yourself and feel out what that can be. It's going to take time. It's not a rush job. For me, that Sunday, I left home normal and came back with this spiritual gift of being a medium. I got everything one time. I was hearing, feeling, sneaks, everything, everything, everything. And so it was rough for me having to deal with that. And luckily, I had a spiritual mother who was able to mentor me through the whole thing because many days I felt I was going mad. As a young person in my late 20s, having this gift, I was like, are you kidding me? This was a whole lifestyle change. So first, try to figure out your love language with your ancestors. You may have to go to get a divination to figure that out if you can on your own, and that's fine, as long as you're with someone who you trust, right? And once you're able to identify what that is the energy that you work with, right? And start trusting in and using your discernment and your intuition.
Beautiful. I love that. Knowing your love language
Love
and
language, yeah.
knowing what works with you. So I have a question. What would be your advice to people who feel stuck, especially as we're getting ready to transition into 2023? As you work with people over the years, if there's a common thing that you find that keeps people like stuck in their tracks, right?
Mhm.
What would that thing be, and how would you like? What would be your guidance for like moving forward or maximizing 2023?
I, if I do a quick survey in my head, I would say the attachment to certain energies is what keep them stuck. And that attachment could be to another human being. It could be an attachment to where they live. It could be an attachment to the job. It could be attachment to anything that really, when you study it, is not serving you. And that's where that stuck or stagnant feeling stems from, right? So when you're able to identify, this job, I'm sick and tired of this job, work on a plan to find another job. And don't tell me, oh, I don't want to hear all that. I dismiss that energy, in my readings with a swiftness, because you're not going to shift the energy of the reading to be, adulting Thomas, right? I get very, very you know, stern with my time and energy. So find another job. Get the resume, because spirit can't. I always tell people, spirit cannot work without tools. Then this is a relationship, right? You have to do your part, and spirit has to do their part. So you go and you get your resume professionally redone, and then you either give it to a headhunter or whomever and start to look for a job, or you look for one on your own. You're in a relationship that's going nowhere, right? Even if there's some things there that are holding you, maybe it's a mortgage, maybe it's children, start to work on towards that shift. And bottom line is sometimes you may have to go to therapy, which I strongly believe in order for you to become unstuck. Because some people can't manage it on their own. Some people don't have the willpower to do it. And may need that someone who's objective and who's their insurance cover, because insurance don't cover us, right? Who their insurance cover to help them, figure out why it is you're in this position for so long. It could be some trauma that has happened in your past that you have not dealt with, and you need somebody to help you to figure all of that out. You know, so just identify the ways in your life you're not happy, focus on that and really see, what are the ways I can change this energy because it's not working for me. And if you find you're going into 2023 and you still have not let this stuff go, you need to go sit down in somebody's therapy chair. Straight up. Because clearly there's some stuff underneath all of these layers that you have not dealt with that needs to be dug up, processed, looked through, and discarded.
Beautiful. As I work with people too, I often talk about having a consistent spiritual practice. And I always tell them their spiritual practice don't have to look like my spiritual practice. In fact,
Correct.
they should have something that resonates with them. But my position is always, commit to doing something to enhance your spirit on a daily basis and get it done, and don't deviate from that under any
Correct.
circumstances. What are your thoughts on that? Just wellness, having a wellness plan, including spiritual practice. What advice do you typically give?
That is a must. You have to have a spiritual wellness tool that you engage in to help you, especially if you're on this spiritual journey. You will not be able to survive the roller coaster that is spirituality if you do not have a wellness tool that you can hold on to, that you can tap into to help you. And I teach a course called Spirituality and Your Ancestors. And one of the topics that we go into is spiritual wellness tools. And I just talk about three of them: meditation, journaling, and grounding. Grounding is my go-to, especially since I'm here on the island. I try to make it a practice to go to the ocean every single week, right? And that is on a Sunday, right? So if I don't go to the ocean the next weekend, I know I'm a little off balance and something don't feel right. I make sure that I'm in that water every single week. And then in between there, I go. So my mother has, this vast property that we can walk around in undisturbed. And I walk around barefoot. I allow the soil, the earth, to touch the sole of my feet, and allow myself to release the things that do not serve me, but also to connect with the earth to replenish. Grounding for me works. And you have to figure out what spiritual tool works best for you, because one size does not fit all. Yesterday I was having lunch with my girlfriend's 14-year-old daughter. And she was telling me some of the tools that she implements for herself. And she says to me, Auntie Simone, I like to write. I write down everything. And I said, well, that's fantastic. She says, I feel a relief. We're out to lunch. And I'm just like tickled pink that I have a 14-year-old talking to her about her, telling me about her spiritual wellness too. And she says, I like to journal. I like to write everything down. And that really helps me to process my feelings. So, and then there's the meditation part. So this gets a little political, because I do not believe there is a one size fits all in the way you should meditate. We know folks of other hues, like to lap their legs and, get in these different positions. And listen, meditation can happen when you are in your tub, taking a bath and relaxing, right? And that's it. And meditation can happen when you're on the train, eyes closed, and you can tune out, the conductor telling me, be careful, the doors are closing. You could tune all that out and just tap in there. So when you get to your destination, you feel revived, So you must have a tool: hugging a tree, touching a tree, going for a walk, going for a swim. Something has to be a part of your lifestyle, because there's a lifestyle change, part of your discipline, in order for you to navigate these spiritual streets because it ain't easy. And just because we are here, in these spaces helping others, that does not mean that we also have to not implement these tools for ourselves. Like I said, I use grounding. So, and when you've decided to, and whether or not you decide to be under any spiritual practice, you're an atheist, whatever, you have to engage in something to help you move through life, period. So the wellness tools that I mentioned, and there are others out there, you just gotta find the right one for you and utilize it. I also know at some point there's a possibility it may no longer serve you, and you may have to find a new one, and that's okay too.
That's beautiful, and it's especially, well, meditation is one of my go-tos, like every day too. But that connection with the earth, I garden, and I'm a beekeeper, right? So we have that. But that to me is such a vitally important piece that I feel is often overlooked, you know, in in our traditions. Like we were saying earlier before we got this on the go live, especially in our traditions, people are often looking for like ritual, 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 ritual. But for me, the way how I see it, just your contact with the natural environment, that is ritual in itself. Just that alone. Just you getting out, with whether it's with your bare foot, whether it's going by the ocean, whether it's sitting down. To me, that is just, and the reason why I say it's ritual in itself is because we have all been robbed of that connection to the earth, because
Yeah,
we have not, most of us don't grow any of our own food. We don't, anything we
yeah,
consume. And so this is why, if we're able to connect and have our own experiences, you don't have to, like, a mentor doesn't have to tell you what to think when you're touching your own bare feet to the ground. This is your experience to nature, right? So it's just so profound, that what you're
yeah,
saying, that thing, I'm just about simplicity, and I know it's coming from the Caribbean heritage, and growing up also on a small island where I feel people historically tend to live more simple lives, in
yes.
a sense.
Yeah.
I want to. Somebody's asking us a question. So to getting, someone posted your website.
Yes,
Some
that's my
reading.
one of my sweethearts, Tisha. She's over
Okay.
in London,
Hello,
and
Tisha.
she helps me out with my clubhouse rooms.
Oh,
And
beautiful.
it's so funny that I guess this happens to you too. Spirit sends folks along for one thing, and then it turns into something else. So, Tisha works with me with most of my social media platforms, and we're about to expand into different things. So, and I didn't even talk to her before. Well, she knew this was happening, but Spirit always whispers to her, "You need to meet Simone here," and she shows up. You see that trust and obey? I think Tisha has that down pat. So, Tisha, I appreciate you, and I appreciate your presence here. Thank you.
Right. So someone is asking. I'm going to post some questions. So someone is asking this question. In doing the healing work, I'm not sure exactly what this question means. Who are you in service to? Um,
I guess they're asking if we're in service to God, if we're in
mhm.
service to the universe, if we're in service to the ancestors. And it is all of the above. You make that's a personal choice. You understand what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Some people they're in service to their orishas. And that's okay. If that is what, as long as you are getting the results in your life that you desire or that is working for you, who am I to come along and say different? Right? At the end, once you are getting the results. So I'm assuming when they ask, who are you in service to? Yeah, that's my personal choice. And I always talk about my ancestors. Everything you see with readings by Simone is ancestral work. And yes, I am initiated into Isheshe. It's only been a year. But before Orishas, before there's my ancestors. That's who I answer to. And yeah, that's who I give my service to. I see my beloved
Hello,
posted
Ife
Ife.
Michelle. Yes, thank you so much for your spirit and your love and all that you do.
Yeah,
Thank you for
my that's that she
yes.
has she has came in. Everything is in divine order. I got that. That was a saying of one of my mentors when I attended Mega Everest College, Dr. Mary Omalu. She always used to say, Simone, everything is in divine order. And my relationship with Iaife Michelle was exactly that. Our ancestors connected, our spirit guides connected, and they laid the work out for us to do. So she and I have been connecting here on the island in Barbados and doing the work. First, we were doing it on Clubhouse, and that faded away. You know, after a while, you get tired of these social media platforms. So now, and I fly her into Barbados, and
Hmm.
we do the work. Sacred Conversation with Our Ancestors is a retreat that I hosted twice this year in May and in October. And I work with Ia Ife in planning it, and she comes down and we she talks about mental health and spirituality because you know she's a licensed mental health therapist, but also a Lukumi priest. And then I talk about ancestral veneration, and we get into other things of doing rituals in terms of bush baths and smoke cleanse, and so that is a this relationship between the two of us is just an example of divine timing and alignment and being able to trust and obey because we didn't know each other from a can of paint physically, but spiritually there was a connection and our people knew each other. And so the work continues in that way. I love you, Ia.
Well, it's so beautiful. And to be honest, it's like because I know Ia Michelle,
Yeah.
and so even though I never had like I don't think I'd had a conversation with you previously, I said, "Oh, Ife's
No,
connected."
this is the first time actually.
So Ife's connected to her, so it must be good. I need to have this woman.
Right. I
It's
get
simple
that
as that.
all the time, and I tell her that too. I said, "Listen, I'm getting respect in these streets because of you," and I humble myself seriously, and that is an example that women as spiritualists need to attach themselves to the integrity, and I'm not going to stay long with that word. The integrity of being a spiritual leader, of being a spiritualist, of being a medium and an intuitive reader and healer. Integrity is important. And that is her reputation. And so that is something that naturally comes to me, of course, but to be associated with certain energies in this physical realm, man, you got to be on point. You have to have your ish together. And you cannot be in certain spaces with certain people like Ia Ife and not be in alignment of a certain energy. Because her spirit will surely tell her what to do and how to do it. And, there's this lovely distance that is created that is so elegantly done. But I thank the ancestors for.
Beautiful. So here's another question.
Mhm.
So how do you trust that someone has come into your life to bring enlightenment if you've experienced toxic people in your life? Um, so I'll just comment briefly on that, and I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Sure.
Is so as we go on this journey of life, which we are going to encounter toxic people. There's no if, ands, or buts, right? That's just the way it's going to be, unfortunately. But even out of those toxic experiences, we could find our own wisdom, so to speak. We could understand that, sometimes I feel the toxicities because we don't value ourselves enough. We don't know our own value, right? And so sometimes we hold on to people who don't see our value, or we let the fact that we don't see their value destroy us or keep us paralyzed. So my advice is always know what your value is, start to treasure yourself, think of yourself as gold, as this priceless soul, and move on. Know when to leave people alone. So your thoughts, um,
Well,
Simone?
coming from a space where I was the toxic one,
Mm,
in that energy where I was not sitting in my truth
mm,
and not, you know, being my authentic self, I was labeled that, and justly so, because I was not in alignment with who I'm supposed to be. So the energy that I was releasing or manifesting was toxic. And from being in that space, a lot of people left. And then I left a lot of people too, right? So if you're working now on figuring out who to trust, after going through some toxic energy, I would like to think you may want to sit as to why you engage in this toxic person in the first place. Where did that come from? What part of your body felt that, or your mind or soul or spirit felt that they needed that energy to prolong it for so long? And if you understand that, then you'll be able to see the red flags early on and not convince yourself that, oh no, I can work with this person. Oh no, I can change. No, that's not your job to change nobody. You're nobody's mama to change any pamper, right? Like I tend to be a little straight with these things. So for me, and even this is something that I have done in my life. First red flag, I addressed, and then it could be depend on the red flag too. I don't address it. I just like, you know what, this is not for me at this time. I would like to wish you all the best, and I move on nicely, right? But once you have understood why you engage in that toxic energy for so long, then you're able to identify, like, when the next person comes and they're able to show you who they are, and give people time to show themselves to you. Give them time, because we all show up in spaces with masks on. But over a period of time, that mask falls off. And Ian and I just had this discussion. Eventually that mask falls off, and then you're able to see the person's true self. And then you can say to yourself, aha, I can rock with this person. I don't know how the light is working for you, but the sun is moving to the west now to set. So if you need me
No,
to
I still
adjust.
see you clearly. I still see you
Okay,
clearly.
good. All right, that's fine. Thank you.
Hmm. I want to see if I have any other questions.
Mm.
Lorena's from Colombia saying she's enjoying the conversation. Um,
Hi,
yes. Let me
Lorena
see.
from Colombia.
Yeah. Hello, Kareem. I think he's in New York. He was a good supporter of mine, and as I was working on I'm still working on the film project. So
Yes,
thank you for his. I want to thank him for his generosity at the time when every
you
penny
needed it.
counted. Yes.
Yeah.
Um, so so I want to maybe close. Actually, a final question. Maybe. Um, so, what are your thoughts on not only how people can grow spiritually, but improve themselves financially? Um, as I
Mm,
think about our communities, and people are often hurting in that areas, and I'm just wondering what your thoughts are about that.
yeah. Well, let me start with this thing first. I collaborated with a company um, out in Mississippi. This lady donated $1,200
Mm,
towards my category of reading for business, for small businesses.
mm,
So I have 2 slots left for November and December. So if anyone with a business is interested, they could just reach out to me by my website, by email, and I have to vet you, and we would discuss your small business. So it's only for November and December left. I wanted to put that out there as a share. Financial wise, I tell folks they have to treat their monies as if it is, or their finances as if it is a dear family member. You know, you don't abuse it. You respect it. You have boundaries. You have limitations. And just work with what you have. And always know that there comes a time whereas you can increase that amount, and it may need for you to not put money certain, like, it's a practical thing along with the spiritual piece, right? So the practicality of it is just be mindful of your spending. It's just common sense, right? And if your budget needs to grow, your career may have to grow with it. So you may have to change jobs. You may have to go back to school to get that next degree. So when you apply for another job, they have to give you more money because you're more educated, you have more training. So really take an assessment of your life and where you are career wise and also education wise, because that's where the shift would happen for you. And career and educational wise does not necessarily mean you have to go and get a degree. You may just need up training. You were a plumber before, but now plumbing has gone digital. You may have to go and take a continuing ed class in plumbing in digital spaces. I don't know how that works, right? But just be willing and open to learn and expand yourself. And when you do that, that helps to expand your pockets, right? And respect money. Money should be respected. Don't sell yourself short. And do not come to me asking me for free reading and you're rolling around with a Louis Vuitton bag. That's not fake. I've Listen, Baba, you done know the stories, right? Don't come to rob from me to gain because it's gonna backfire. You know what I'm saying? Like, live with integrity with other people's money as you would live with integrity with yours. Then there's the little thing you can put a little bay leaf in your purse, add some crystals to your pocketbook or your wallet, or there's these little things you can work with. But it's all right to do them little rituals, but you still have to do the bigger part. Whereas, in your respect for money and how it is spent, but not only how you're going to spend your money, but and respect it, but how you will respect others as well. And one thing that Spirit is asking me to mention here with this is respect time. There's this thing that says time is money. If you, and this is for somebody listening, if you have an issue with time, you have to work on that, because your lateness or your tardiness or your non-respect for other people's time is costing you. It may cost you in that you are looking to do a business deal with someone, and because you're late in submitting your proposal, late in coming on conference calls, late, and just disrespectful with person's time, you've lost out on that partnership. Sometimes it's these simple things, eh?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's often the simple things that hold us back. Well, I want to thank you for spending this Saturday with us. And again, for those who'd like to get in touch with her, readingsbysimone.com. So I want to thank you so much for that. Wishing you continued
Thank you,
success
Baba.
with all that you
It was
do.
a pleasure.
Yes. And to all of those who tuned in today, loved all of your questions and wishing you all very good rest of your weekend. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.